The cuffs clicked shut in the middle of the diner, while Marcus Ellison stood beside a spilled cup of black coffee, his hands calm, his voice low. The officer called him a drifter in front of every booth, and nobody moved. Why did the quiet black man in the worn brown coat refuse to defend himself? Why did he keep touching the folded photograph in his pocket instead of shouting his name? And why did the police chief go pale when one waitress finally handed over her phone? By sunrise, one arrest would expose a secret hearing, a buried pattern, and a career that could not survive the truth. Not anymore. The second click of the cuffs sounded sharper than the first. Marcus Ellison kept his shoulders square beside the counter, where black coffee crawled over tile. The diner heater blew under the window, but the metal around his wrists carried its cold. Behind him, forks rested halfway to mouths. A chair leg scraped, then stopped. "Step back," Officer Kyle Brandt said. "I will not resist," Marcus answered. "But that folder is mine. I want it placed where I can see it." Brandt glanced at the leather folder on the stool. "You don't give orders in here." "I made a request." "A request?" Brandt turned so the booths could hear. "He thinks this is a hotel lobby." Ruth Bell stood near the register with a dish towel in her fist. The neon maple leaf above the pie case buzzed. "Officer," Marcus said, "there is a photograph in my inside pocket. Please do not crush it." Brandt's jaw tightened. "You worried about a picture now?" "Yes." Grace Miller's hand moved under her white apron. Her phone screen glowed against the fabric. She had meant only to check the time. Then she heard Brandt refuse to read the card Marcus had offered. Now her thumb hovered over the red dot. Ruth noticed. "Grace," she whispered. "Don't." "He asked for his folder. And I asked you to bring table 4 their toast." At table 4, an elderly man in a veteran's cap lowered his eyes. The toast sat untouched, butter melting into a yellow shine. "Anyone else want to assist?" Brandt asked. No one answered. "What's your full name?" Brandt demanded. "Marcus Ellison." "Address?" "I will provide identification when my property is handled according to procedure." Brandt stepped closer. "You keep saying procedure like it scares me." "It should guide you." Brandt snatched the folder. "What's in this?" "Documents." "What kind?" "Documents that should not be opened at a breakfast counter." "Convenient." Brandt tucked it under his arm. "There's always a story." The kitchen door swung open, releasing the smell of bacon grease and burned toast. A cook looked out, saw the cuffs, and let the door swing shut again. Marcus turned slightly toward Grace. "Miss Miller?" Her eyes widened. "Yes?" "If they take me from here, there is a cream-colored card in the front pocket of that folder. Call the number printed at the bottom." Brandt grabbed his elbow. "No messages." "I am asking a citizen to preserve contact information." "You're asking too much." The cuffs caught on Marcus's old wristwatch, the one with Elaine's initials scratched faintly on the back. For one quiet second, Marcus stopped moving. "Keep walking," Brandt said. "Please don't let the folder leave this room unlogged." Grace swallowed. "Officer Brandt, shouldn't there be a receipt?" Brandt turned on her. "You run this place now?" Ruth whispered. "Grace." But the phone kept recording beneath the apron. Marcus saw the glow, then lowered his eyes before Brandt could follow his gaze. At the door, cold morning air pushed in around the frame. Outside, the patrol car waited at the curb, blue lights silent against the diner windows. Brandt marched Marcus through the doorway, and every bell above the entrance shook. On the tile behind them, the coffee reached the folder's empty spot. At 6:12 a.m., before the coffee touched the tile, Marcus Ellison stood in the motel bathroom and tried to button his left cuff with fingers that would not hurry. The mirror was spotted from steam. Gray autumn light slipped around the curtain. His brown coat hung from the shower rod, tired at the elbows. On the sink lay a leather folder, a folded photograph, and a silver watch turned face down so the initials would not catch him too early. His phone buzzed. "Morning, Dad," Naomi said. "Please tell me you're not already working. I am deciding whether this tie still believes in me." It never did. Marcus set the tie back in the suitcase. "Then I will not force the matter. You promised you'd be in Raleigh by 7 tonight. I promised to sit in the third row and pretend not to cry. You stare at the ceiling when you do that. It is an old legal strategy." Her laugh came through bright. The photograph showed Elaine outside the maple lantern 21 years earlier, one hand shading her eyes, Naomi small enough to ride on Marcus's hip. The corner was soft from his pocket. "Are you still going to that diner?" Naomi asked. "Just for breakfast. You hate small-town detours. Your mother liked that pie." A pause settled. "Today is not a memorial," she said. "No," Marcus answered. "It is only a cup of coffee." He slipped the photograph into the inside pocket of his shirt. The fabric smelled faintly of cedar. He picked up the leather folder last, checking that the cream-colored card sat in the front sleeve. "Do you have your speech notes?" he asked. "Do not cross-examine me before breakfast. I raised you to be prepared. You raised me to bring 3 copies and still panic. That is also preparation. Drive safe," Naomi said, "and eat something real. I will consider pie a vegetable. It is fruit. Then we agree." He ended the call only after she did. The motel heater clicked twice and went quiet. Outside, trucks hissed over wet leaves. The maple lantern sat 6 blocks away, between a closed hardware store and a gas station with 2 pumps covered in plastic. Its sign blinked 1 letter short, Maple Lantern. Marcus parked near the curb. Across the street, a patrol car rolled past. The officer inside did not stop. Marcus watched the taillights turn. "Just breakfast," he said to the empty car. He opened the glove compartment. Inside was a napkin from the diner, brittle at the crease, with Elaine's handwriting on it. "Save me the peach slice." Marcus touched the ink once. His phone buzzed again. A message from Naomi appeared. Third row. No ceiling staring. A second notification flashed beneath it, an unknown local number missed at 5:47 a.m. No voicemail. He slid the phone into his coat. Cold air met him outside. It carried frying oil, damp pavement, and distant wood smoke. A delivery truck groaned behind the diner. Marcus crossed the sidewalk with his folder tucked close. At the glass door, he paused. Inside, a waitress moved between booths with a coffee pot. An elderly man unfolded a newspaper. The counter stool near the pie case was empty. Marcus adjusted the photograph so the corner would not bend. Then he opened the door, and the bell above it gave one clear, harmless ring. The bell above the maple lantern rang once, then trembled against the glass. Marcus stepped inside at 6:38 a.m. Warm air carried coffee, griddle smoke, and sweet crust from the pie case. He took the stool beside the glass display. Peach, apple, chocolate cream. The labels were handwritten, like the ones Elaine read aloud. Grace Miller looked up from the mugs. "Morning." "Good morning. Is the counter open?" "Anywhere you like." He set the leather folder on the empty stool to his left and slid 2 bills under the sugar jar. Grace poured coffee. "Cream?" "Black, thank you." "Food?" "If the peach is as good as it used to be, I'll take a slice." "How long ago?" "Long enough that the sign outside still had every letter." Ruth Bell came out with biscuits. Her gray hair was pinned tight, and her eyes moved from Marcus's worn sleeves to the folder. "He paying?" she asked. Grace blinked. "Yes, ma'am." "No, you're fine," Ruth told Marcus. "Grace, keep an eye on the front." "I am." "Close eye." In the third booth, Harold Vance lowered his newspaper. His veteran's cap had a cracked bill. His hearing aid gave a tiny whistle. Marcus pretended not to hear. The coffee was hot, bitter, clean. For half a minute, the diner returned to ordinary sounds. Bacon snapping, a spoon tapping ceramic, rain ticking from the awning. Then the door opened hard. Officer Kyle Brandt entered without wiping his boots. Broad shoulders, clipped blonde hair, uniform pressed sharp. Grace straightened. Ruth tucked a towel into her apron. "Usual," Brandt said. Grace reached for a paper cup. "Large coffee?" "Large free coffee." He smiled at Ruth. Ruth laughed too quickly. "Of course." Marcus did not turn. Brandt leaned 3 stools away. "Busy morning?" "Not yet," Grace said. "Good. Pike called. Mayor wants Main Street clean before 8. No loitering. No wandering problems." Ruth's gaze flicked toward Marcus. "We haven't had trouble." Brandt followed her eyes. "That right?" Marcus unfolded his napkin across his lap. Brandt took the cup before Grace finished with the lid. "You from around here?" "I used to pass through," Marcus said. "That's not what I asked." "No, it is the answer I have." Ruth stepped closer to the register. "Officer, he just ordered breakfast." "I'm having a conversation." Marcus cut the pie. The crust broke softly. It tasted of cinnamon and canned fruit, close enough to make him pause. Brandt nodded at the folder. "What's in there?" "Papers." "What kind?" "The kind that travel better closed." A drop from Grace's coffee pot hit the burner and hissed. Brandt glanced at Ruth. "You know him?" Ruth looked at Marcus, then at the cash beside his cup. "No." Harold folded his newspaper. "Kyle, let the man eat." Brandt did not turn. "Morning, Harold." "I said let him eat." "And I heard you." Brandt stepped 1 stool closer. "I'm wondering why a man with no straight answer and a courthouse-looking folder picks today to sit up front." Marcus dabbed his mouth. "Officer, I'm sure your morning has obligations. Mine does too." Brandt's radio crackled. "Brandt, Pike, check in after Maple Lantern." Brandt pressed the button, eyes fixed on Marcus. "Copy." Above the pie case, the neon maple leaf buzzed louder. Brandt kept his thumb on the radio button after Pike's voice faded. The neon maple leaf buzzed above Marcus's shoulder. Rain slid from Brandt's boots and made dark commas on the tile. Grace held the coffee pot in one hand and her order pad in the other, the cardboard soft under her damp fingers. "You got business at the courthouse?" Brandt asked. Marcus set his fork beside the pie. "I have business in Millstone." "That wasn't my question." "It is the answer I can give at a breakfast counter." Ruth wiped the register with a clean towel. "Kyle, he paid." "I'm not asking about pie." Brandt leaned closer. "Where are you staying?" "The Northbridge Motel." "For how long?" "1 night." "Who are you meeting?" Marcus watched steam lift from his coffee. "Officer, if you believe a law has been broken, state it. If you are making conversation, I would like to finish breakfast." Grace's fingers tightened. A wet crescent appeared on the top sheet of her pad, blurring the word toast into a gray smear. Brandt noticed. "You need something?" "No, sir." "Then move." She stepped toward table 2, but did not go far. Harold had stopped reading. Behind the kitchen door, a spatula scraped once, then went still. Brandt tapped the leather folder. "Open it." "I won't do that here." This diner gets men passing through with stories every month. Sleeping out back, bothering customers, asking for cash. I asked for coffee and pie, and gave me attitude. I gave you boundaries. The room changed around that word. Brent's hand settled on his belt, heavy enough for every booth. Grace looked around. 2 construction workers ate at the far booth. A salesman near the window kept a briefcase open beside his eggs. Brent had not asked either man a question. Only Marcus. Identification, Brent said. Marcus reached toward his coat. 2 fingers. Marcus stopped, then obeyed. He drew out a slim wallet. Brent took it before Marcus could open it. Marcus Ellison, Brent read. Raleigh. Long way for diner pie. It was my wife's favorite. Something moved through Ruth's face and disappeared. Brant's radio cracked again. Brant, status. He lifted it, checking a suspicious person at Maple Lantern. Suspicious person. The word settled on Marcus before anyone proved they belonged. You have my identification, Marcus said. Am I detained? Brant lowered the radio. You asking because you know how to play the game? I'm asking because the answer matters. The answer is, you can make this easy. That is not an answer. Ruth whispered. Maybe just show him the papers. Brant turned. You know what's in there? No, I only meant... Marcus looked at her gently. It's all right. Grace felt the pad bend. The wet mark had spread through 3 pages. She wrote nothing, but her pencil point pressed until it punched a tiny hole. Brant placed the wallet beside the coffee, but kept 2 fingers on it. Tell me why you're in Millstone today. Breakfast before a meeting, Marcus said. What meeting? One you are not assigned to. Brant's nostrils flared. Wrong answer. Behind Grace, the bell over the door shook in a gust of cold air, though no one had entered, and Brant's hand closed around the leather folder. Brant lifted the leather folder off the stool as if it were a rag. Marcus rose halfway. Officer, that contains privileged documents. Hear that, Ruth? He brought privilege to the Maple Lantern. A spoon slipped from a saucer. Grace flinched, damp fingers tightening around the order pad until the paper softened. I am asking you to call your supervisor, Marcus said. I don't need a supervisor to look inside a folder. You do if you are opening sealed court material. Brant's thumb paused under the flap. He saw the cream sheet, the dark seal, the card beneath elastic, and still did not read it. Court material, he said. Everybody's got court material now. Harold Vance pushed his coffee aside. Kyle, just call Pike. Brant turned. You running command from booth 3? No, I'm saying it costs you nothing. It costs authority when every passerby thinks he can set terms. Brant pressed his shoulder radio. Pike, you got a second? Static hissed. Make it fast. I've got a mail at Maple Lantern, refusing cooperation, carrying courthouse papers, giving legal speeches. Pike said, Any threat? He's obstructing. That's not what I asked. He's creating a disturbance. Ruth's towel stopped moving. Pike exhaled. Mayor's breakfast group comes through in 20. Clear it before they arrive. If he has ID, run it. If he won't settle down, remove him. Marcus spoke toward the radio. Sergeant, this is Marcus Ellison. I request that the officer log my folder. Brant snapped the radio away. You don't talk on my channel. Kyle? Pike said. Nobody. I'll handle it. Harold stood. His knees popped. The cracked bill of his veteran's cap trembled in his hands. He gave you his name. Run it. Brant faced him. Sit down. Run it, son. The word landed badly. Brant stepped toward the booth. Harold's fingers folded around the cap until the visor bent with a dry little crack. Mr. Vance, Marcus said. Please sit. Harold obeyed. The broken cap lay in his lap like something small and punished. Brant came back smiling. See? Your friend understands instructions. He's not my friend, Marcus said. He's a witness. Brant picked up Marcus's wallet. You want a supervisor? Ask him at the station. Ruth whispered, Kyle, is that necessary? He pointed toward the door with the folder. Outside. I have not been told whether I am detained. You are now. On what basis? Failure to comply. I complied with identification. You failed to comply with me. The heater blew across Marcus's coffee, rippling the black surface. Grace looked down at the pad. Water from her fingers had soaked through 3 pages. She could not read her own writing anymore. Marcus buttoned his coat slowly. I will walk with you. My folder stays logged, or it stays in sight. Brant leaned close enough for Marcus to smell mint gum and rain. You don't get conditions. From booth 3 came Harold's thin voice. I should have said something sooner. No one answered him. Brant took Marcus by the elbow, hard enough to make every fork in the room go still. Grace slid the ruined pad into her apron pocket and touched the phone hidden beneath it. Then Marcus looked at her and said, Remember the number. Grace's thumb found the red button through the cotton of her apron. The phone warmed against her stomach while Brant pulled Marcus 2 steps from the counter. The diner seemed to shrink around them. Chrome stools, rain-dark windows, bacon smoke caught under old paint. Ruth stood near the register, towel twisted tight. Outside, Brant said. No more speeches. Marcus kept his hands visible. I will step outside once my folder is returned or formally logged. Brant gave a dry laugh. You think you're negotiating? I'm preserving a record. You're creating a scene. No, Marcus said. You are. Grace heard every word. The red timer climbed beneath her apron, hidden by the ruined order pad pressed to her waist. Ruth came close enough to whisper, Grace, put that away. He took the man's wallet. He's a police officer. And he won't say why. Ruth's eyes darted toward Brant. This place survives because uniforms eat here and leave us alone. Grace looked at the counter. Marcus's coffee steamed beside the peach pie, the fork lying across the plate like a stopped hand. I just want to know what happened. What happened is he should have answered. At the door, Brant tightened his grip on Marcus's elbow. Marcus did not pull away. The old wristwatch slid under his cuff and caught the light. My folder, Marcus said. Brant turned back and snatched it from the stool. This one? Please place it on the counter. Brant flipped open the flap before Marcus finished speaking. Grace's breath caught. Harold shifted in booth 3, but the broken cap stayed in his lap. Inside were clipped pages, a cream-colored card, and a dark raised seal at the top of one document. Brant's eyes passed over it quickly. Court paper, he said. Big surprise. That seal is not decorative, Marcus said. Brant tugged the card halfway free. Marcus Ellison. Rally address. Very official. Read the bottom line. I don't take homework from people I'm removing. Then log it without reading it. Brant slapped the folder shut. The sound made Grace's phone jump against her skin. You can explain your mysterious papers at the station. Ruth stepped between Grace and the counter. Kyle, maybe leave the folder here. I'll put it under the register. Brant looked at her until her cheeks lost color. You want custody of evidence now? No, I only meant... You meant to run your diner. Ruth swallowed. Yes. Then run it. Marcus looked past Brant to Grace. Not pleading. Not asking. Only checking whether she had heard. She pressed the order pad harder over the apron. A corner cut into her palm. "Officer," Marcus said, "if that folder leaves this building with me, I want the transfer visible." Brant tucked it under his arm. "You want a lot. I want less than the law requires." Brant shoved the wallet into his own pocket, not Marcus's. "Hands behind your back." The room lost its ordinary sounds. No forks, no grill scrape. Only the neon leaf buzzing above the pie case and rain tapping the glass. Grace's phone kept recording under her apron. Marcus looked at the photograph corner showing inside his coat, then at the folder trapped under Brant's arm. "Please," he said, "do not bend that." Brant reached for the cuffs before Marcus finished the word. The first ring snapped around Marcus's right wrist with a bright click. Cold air slipped under the diner door, carrying rain and exhaust across the white tile. "Hands behind your back," Brant said. Marcus turned slowly. "I will not fight you." "Then move." "My photograph is in this coat. My folder is in your possession. I am asking you to issue a receipt before either leaves this room." Brant looked toward the booths. "A receipt. You hear that?" No one answered. Harold's broken cap rested between his knees. Ruth reached behind the counter and switched off the radio. The old song died mid-word, leaving only the neon buzz and the wet hiss of tires outside. "Do not touch my coat pocket roughly," Marcus said. "You worried about your costume." "My wife's photograph is there." Brant pulled Marcus's left wrist back. The open cuff brushed the old watch beneath his sleeve. Metal touched metal, then skin. Marcus drew one quiet breath. "Keep steady." They are steady. The cuff closed. Elaine's initials disappeared beneath steel. Grace kept the ruined order pad against her apron. Her phone screen glowed warm through the cotton. "Officer Brant, shouldn't you tell him what he's being arrested for?" Brant turned. "You want to come too?" Ruth stepped in front of her. She didn't mean anything. "I meant the question," Grace said. Marcus did not look at her. "Miss Miller." She froze. "If I am not released or properly processed within 1 hour, open the front flap of that folder. There is a cream-colored card. Call the number at the bottom and say where I was taken." Brant jerked him toward the door. "No messages. I am giving a citizen information. You're giving her trouble. The trouble was already here." Brant leaned close enough for Marcus to smell mint gum and rain. "You think calm makes you better than me?" "No," Marcus said. "It makes me easier to hear." Harold pushed himself halfway out of booth 3. "Kyle, let him make the call." "I said sit." Harold looked at Marcus. Marcus gave the smallest shake of his head. The old man lowered himself onto the vinyl seat, bending the cracked bill of his cap until the split widened. Brant nodded at the cook behind the pass-through. "Open the door." The cook did not move. "Now." The swinging door creaked. Grease smell rolled out, hot and sour. Marcus stepped forward. The cuffs forced his shoulders back, straightening him more than bending him. His shoes crossed the spilled coffee. One drop marked the hem of his coat. Grace moved from behind Ruth. "Grace," Ruth warned. She reached the counter and placed both palms on the leather folder. Brant spun. "Put that down. I'm keeping it where everyone can see it." "That's evidence." "Then say why. Say it clearly." Every booth heard the silence after that. Brant yanked the folder from under Grace's hands and tucked it under his arm. "You just made yourself a witness." Grace nodded once. "I know." At the door, Marcus turned as far as the cuffs allowed. 1 hour, Miss Miller." Brant shoved the door open. The bell above it shook wildly, too loud for such a small place, and outside, the patrol car waited with its rear door open. The rear door shut with a rubber thud, and the diner bell became a shaking sound behind glass. Marcus sat sideways in the patrol car because the cuffs would not let him sit straight. Rain tapped the roof. Brant tossed the folder onto the passenger seat and pulled away without a siren. "My phone call should be recorded at intake," Marcus said. "Already planning paperwork? I am planning to be processed correctly. Then plan quietly." Through the wet rear window, Marcus saw Grace at the diner door, her white apron bright in the dark glass. At 6:57 a.m., the Millstone station smelled of floor wax and coffee. Brant guided him through a side entrance. A young clerk looked up. "Booking?" the clerk asked. "Temporary hold." "For what?" "Obstruction." "Log now?" "Later." Marcus stopped beside the counter. "My name, property, time, and reason for detention should be entered now." Brant leaned close. "You're not teaching a class." "No, I am preserving the order of events." "Room 2, Brant told the clerk. "Don't start a file until Pike looks at him." Room 2 had no window. A metal chair waited under fluorescent light. Brant removed the cuffs only after Marcus sat, then set his wallet, watch, phone, and folded photograph into a clear plastic tray. Marcus reached toward the photograph. Brant moved it back. "Hands on the table." "That is not evidence." "It is property." "It is my wife." The words changed the room. Brant shut the tray lid. "Then she can wait." The door closed. Marcus looked at the clock. 7:03. Red half-moons from the cuffs pressed into his skin. Beyond the door, Brant's voice lifted. "He asked for a receipt like I was delivering furniture." Another man chuckled. "Pike." Marcus sat still. The chair was cold through his coat. The heater clicked twice and failed. His phone lit inside the tray on the desk. Naomi. The name glowed against the plastic, then faded. "I need to answer that call," Marcus said. No one came. The phone lit again. Naomi. Then a message banner. "Dad, where are you?" Marcus closed his hand under the table until his knuckles touched metal. Outside, Pike said, "What's in the folder?" "Court stuff." He kept saying sealed like that meant something. Paper slid. A flap opened. Pike's voice dropped. "Did you read this?" "I looked at it." "You didn't run the name?" "He had an ID Raleigh. No warrants." "That's not the same thing." Brant said, "If it mattered, why didn't he say so?" "He tried." "No, he played games." Marcus heard pages being squared on the desk. Pike said, "Chief isn't in yet." "So?" "So we don't open this before she gets here." "You worried?" "I'm worried about timing." "My report will say he refused simple orders." "Your report will say as little as possible until I review it." Marcus looked at the tray again. His phone lit a third time, but now the screen showed only missed call. Beside it, the photograph lay face down. He spoke toward the door, calmly enough that someone had to choose whether to ignore him. "Sergeant Pike, if you are holding a cream-colored card, call that number before you write anything." The hallway went still. Then Brant's footsteps crossed to the door, and the folder disappeared from glass. Grace waited until the patrol car turned the corner before she pulled the phone from under her apron. The recording timer was still running. 7 minutes, 42 seconds. Her thumb shook so badly she almost stopped it. The diner smelled of burned toast, wet wool, and rainwater tracked across tile. Ruth stood behind the register, the towel crushed in her fist. "Delete it," Ruth said. Grace looked at the empty stool where Marcus's folder had been. "No," he said. 1 hour. He was trying to scare Kyle into being careful. Grace lifted her eyes. He wasn't scared. Harold Vance came from booth 3 with his cracked cap in both hands. "Girl, if there's a number, Call it now." Grace opened the front flap. The cream-colored card slid out, thick and smooth, with a raised seal at the top. She dialed before Ruth could touch her wrist. The line rang 4 times. On the 5th, a woman answered. "Judge Ellison's chambers, Clara West speaking." Grace's throat closed. The pie case blurred. "Hello?" the woman said. Grace bent over the counter and whispered, "Judge Ellison's chambers?" "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Grace Miller. I work at the Maple Lantern Diner in Millstone. A man named Marcus Ellison was just taken by police." Silence struck the line. "Taken where?" Clara asked. "The station, I think. Officer Kyle Brandt put him in cuffs. He took his folder and wallet. Mr. Ellison told me to call this number." Ruth whispered, "Oh, God." A chair scraped hard through the phone. "Miss Miller, are you safe?" "I'm at the diner." "Do you have any recording?" "Yes." "Do not delete it. Do not surrender your phone without a lawful order. What time is it?" 7:11. "Who witnessed it?" "Ruth Bell, Harold Vance, 2 road workers, a man by the window, the cook." "Write that down now." Grace grabbed the ruined order pad. The wet pages wrinkled under the pencil. Booth 3, veteran cap. Table 4, orange jacket. Window man, silver briefcase. Clara's voice became quieter. "Did he identify himself as Judge Ellison?" Grace stopped writing. "No, he only said Marcus Ellison." "That sounds like him." At 7:14 a.m., Naomi Ellison stood in a Raleigh lecture hall with 3 neat stacks of speech notes and 4 unanswered calls to her father. Her phone buzzed again. "This is Clara. Your father is in Millstone. Call me immediately." Naomi left before the professor finished greeting the room. In the hallway, her heels struck the polished floor. "Clara, what happened?" "Your father was detained." "Detained? For what?" "I don't know yet." A waitress called from the Maple Lantern. "There is a recording." Naomi pressed her hand to the wall. "Did he tell them who he is?" "Apparently not." "Of course he didn't. He wanted them to do it right because it was right, not because of his title." "I'm contacting the courthouse administrator and the chief's office now." "I'm going to Millstone." Back at the diner, Grace placed the cream-colored card beside Marcus's pie. Its raised seal caught the gray light. Ruth stared at it as if it had been lying there all morning and everyone had chosen not to see it. Clara came back on the line, breath short. "Miss Miller, stay where you are. The police chief is being called now." Chief Lydia Garner reached her office at 7:23 a.m., rain still shining on her coat, and found the desk phone ringing. "Garner, this is Clara West from Judge Marcus Ellison's chambers," a woman said. "I need confirmation that Judge Ellison is in your custody." Lydia's hand stopped above the switch. "Repeat that name." "Judge Marcus Ellison. A waitress from Maple Lantern says one of your officers handcuffed him." Through the hallway glass, Lydia saw Brandt at Pike's desk with a leather folder. "Hold," Lydia said. She opened the door. "Pike, Brandt, my office." Brandt turned. "Chief, it's just a disorderly." "Now." Inside, the heater clicked behind Lydia's desk. A paper cup of coffee steamed beside unsigned schedules. "Where is Marcus Ellison?" "Room 2, Pike said. "Temporary hold." "Booked?" "Not yet." "Property logged?" Brandt shifted. "We were about to." Lydia pointed at the folder. "Then why is sealed court material in the hallway?" "He refused instructions," Brandt said. "He made the diner nervous." "Who complained?" "Ruth Bell, Harold, the waitress." Lydia looked at Pike. "Pull body cam, hall, booking desk, patrol car, dispatch. Call Maple Lantern for footage before anyone learns how to lose it." Brandt stepped forward. "Chief, This is inflated because he knew a courthouse number. Lydia lifted the phone. Ms. West, why was Judge Ellison in Millstone? Clara answered, he was scheduled to review sealed misconduct files involving your department at 10. Pike's eyes closed. Lydia's coffee steam disappeared. Thank you. I'll call back. She hung up. Brant said, he never said judge. Lydia turned slowly. You think procedure depends on whether a citizen impresses you fast enough? He was evasive. He asked you to read. Pike sat. Chief, we can still call this a misunderstanding. Release him. Apologize. Write it clean. I mean, keep it contained. The front door opened. Grace Miller came in with her apron under a coat, Ruth behind her, Harold moving carefully with his cracked cap in both hands. The clerk leaned in. Chief, people from the diner. Conference room, Lydia said. No one speaks to them before I do. Brant stiffened. They're witnesses in my incident. They are witnesses in my investigation. Grace placed her phone on the conference table as if it might burn through the wood. Lydia turned to the monitor. Brant's body cam file opened to a gray screen. Camera activation missing, she read. It failed, Brant said. At the diner. It happens. Patrol car. The screen showed rain on glass, and Marcus turned sideways in the back seat. My phone call should be recorded at intake, Marcus said. Brant's voice snapped. Then plan quietly. Lydia's untouched coffee sat beside the keyboard. On the monitor, Marcus looked older than she remembered, but the stillness was the same. Years earlier, after a young lieutenant named Lydia Garner made a mistake, Judge Ellison had said, "A badge cannot survive pride. It can survive correction." Now his folded photograph lay face down in a plastic tray. Lydia picked up the phone. Room 2. No one enters except me. From the conference room, Grace's recording began to play, and Brant's own voice filled the office. The lock on room 2 turned at 7:41 a.m. Marcus lifted his head before the door opened. The fluorescent tube hummed above him. His wrists rested on the cold table, thin red bands crossing the skin beneath his watch mark. Across the hall, his phone lit inside the plastic tray, then faded again. Chief Lydia Garner stepped in alone. Judge Ellison. Chief Garner. She glanced at the tray, the face-down photograph, the wallet with no tag, the folder absent from the room. Your restraints should have been removed at intake. They were, Marcus said, after I was seated. That does not make it correct. No. Lydia turned to the clerk. Bring every item here. Start an incident log at 6:57, not now. Brant appeared in the doorway. Chief, I should be present. You should stand in the hall. He was my detainee. He is no longer yours. Pike hovered beyond him. Chief, we should slow down. We slowed down when property left his sight. The clerk returned with the tray and folder. Marcus reached for the photograph. This time, no one stopped him. Elaine smiled in sunlight, Naomi small against his shoulder. I owe you an apology, Lydia said. I will accept a record first. We will preserve patrol video, station cameras, dispatch audio, and witness recordings. In original format. With chain of custody. Yes to both. And no report completed by Officer Brant before those materials are secured. Brant muttered, Unbelievable. Lydia looked toward him. Surrender your body camera and duty phone. Now. The hallway went quiet except for rain ticking against the windows. At 7:48, the station door opened hard. Naomi Ellison crossed the lobby with wet hair stuck to her cheek. Where is he? She saw Marcus through the open doorway and stopped, her shoulder against the frame. Dad. I'm all right. You're sitting in a police holding room. Observation noted. She came to the table, then froze. Her eyes found his wrists. One hand rose, but she did not touch the marks. Who did that? Marcus folded the photograph once. The question today is how it happened. No, that is not the first question. For you, maybe not. For the record, it is. Lydia stood beside the door. Ms. Ellison, your father is being released without charge. Naomi turned. Released? You never charged him. That is correct. Then write that sentence where everyone can read it. Marcus said her name softly. Her mouth closed, but her hands did not. The room smelled of floor wax, damp wool, and burned coffee. Somewhere a printer started, spitting paper. Marcus stood slowly. The chair legs scraped the floor. You could have said your title, Naomi whispered. Yes. Why didn't you? Because the next man might not have one. Lydia looked away first. In the doorway, Brant held his body camera in one hand, his face tight and blank. Naomi saw him, then the red lines again. Remember this? Marcus asked her. She nodded once. Not my face. The steps. The missing log. The unreturned phone. The folder opened in a hallway. Remember those? The printer stopped. Lydia picked up the first page of the new incident log and placed it on the table, blank spaces waiting for names that could no longer hide. The incident log stayed blank until Lydia wrote the time herself. At 8:36 a.m., the conference room felt too small. Rain tapped the high window. Grace sat with her phone between both palms. Harold kept his cracked cap on his knee. Ruth's hands searched for a towel that was not there. City Attorney Mara Collins entered. I'm recording this session. State your name before you answer. Brant leaned on the wall. So now the waitress is a witness. One more comment and you wait outside, Lydia said. Grace touched her phone. Grace Miller, 27. Server at Maple Lantern. Why did you record? Because he asked for normal things and got treated like insults. What normal things? His property in sight, a receipt, a supervisor, the reason. He was escalating, Brant said. Grace pressed play. The diner returned in pieces, neon buzz, rain on glass, Marcus's calm voice, Brant saying, You don't get conditions. Then Grace asked about a receipt. Pike stared at the table edge, as if the wood grain had become legal language. Mara stopped the audio. Sergeant Pike. Evan Pike, 46. Patrol supervisor. Did you instruct him to arrest Judge Ellison? I instructed him to clear the location. That is not what I asked. No. Did you verify the name? I did not have the documents. You had a radio, a database, and a man requesting a supervisor. Pike looked at Marcus, hands folded, red marks visible but not offered for pity. I should have slowed the call. Harold's voice came next, rough as gravel. Harold Vance, 71, retired mechanic. What did you see? I saw Kyle decide who that man was before he asked him anything. He bent the split visor of his cap. I stood up, then sat back down like a boy. Marcus lowered his eyes. Ruth Bell took longer. Ruth Bell, 63, owner of Maple Lantern. Did you ask Brant to remove Mr. Ellison? No. Did you suggest Mr. Ellison was trouble? I told Grace to watch him, Ruth said. Why? Ruth laid her diner keys on the table. Metal rang on wood. Because he looked tired. Because his coat was worn. Because Kyle comes in every morning like he owns the counter, and I have been letting him. That's not fair, Brant said. Ruth looked at him. No, it wasn't. Brant took the chair opposite Lydia. Kyle Brant, 38, patrol officer. I made a judgment call based on public safety. Public safety from what? Mara asked. Unknown mail. Evasive responses. Unverified documents. You opened the folder and kept his wallet? I glanced. For control. You failed to activate body cam? It malfunctioned. Lydia slid a paper across the table. Your camera logged manual standby at 6:39. Brant stared. Mara said, He asked 4 times for a basis. You gave none. He knew how to bait me. Marcus spoke for the first time. No one should need a title to ask why metal is being placed around his wrists. Brant looked down. His hand covered the badge on his chest, as if checking it was still there. Secure every copy, Lydia said. Next step? Mara asked. Formal findings before noon, Lydia said. Personnel actions after that. Outside, the printer started again, and this time it did not stop after 1 page. At 11:58 a.m., the printer stopped with a hard click. Lydia Garner set the final page on the conference table. Brant's body camera lay in an evidence bag. Officer Brant, Lydia said, stand. His chair scraped. Mara Collins read from the page. Failure to state lawful basis for detention. Failure to log property. Failure to preserve camera record. Removal without proper intake. Brant looked at Pike. This was a bad call, Brant said, not misconduct. A bad call is corrected when facts arrive, Lydia said. You ignored them, then tried to write around them. I didn't know who he was. Marcus sat near the window, coat folded over his lap. Naomi stood behind him. Lydia's voice stayed level. That sentence is the problem. Mara slid a form across the table. Effective immediately. Your employment with this department is terminated. Surrender department property before leaving. Brant touched the badge on his chest. His fingers would not release the pin. The metal caught in the fabric, then came free with a small tear. He set it down hard. The sound cracked through the room. Harold removed his cap. After 9 years? Brant said. After this morning, Lydia answered. Pike's shoulders tightened. Sergeant Pike, Lydia said, you are relieved of supervisory duties pending retraining and outside review. You will not approve arrest reports or field removals. Pike nodded. Understood. Say the rest. I failed to verify the name, he said. I tried to contain the report before I understood the event. I left the decision to the officer who created the problem. Marcus looked at Elaine's watch. You had enough information to pause. I did. Brant stepped back. So that's it? My career is over because a waitress filmed me? Grace's hands tightened around her phone. Marcus answered before Lydia could. Your career is ending because every chance to slow down became a reason to press harder. You set me up. No, Marcus said. I asked you to read. For once, Brant had no reply. The clock clicked to noon. Lydia signed the page. Escort him to property. A clerk opened the door. Brant walked out without looking at Grace, Ruth, or Harold. The badge stayed on the table until Mara sealed it. Naomi leaned close to Marcus. Is that enough? No. Lydia heard him. What else? Marcus laid the cream-colored card beside the badge. A public report. A complete timeline. Mara nodded. Redacted where legally required. And every complaint involving unlawful detention, missing camera footage, or unlogged property in the last 5 years reviewed by someone outside this department. Pike raised his head. 5 years? If this morning was isolated, Marcus said, the review will be short. Grace slid her phone across the table. Use my name. Ruth turned. Grace? I watched once, Grace said. I'm not doing it twice. Harold put his cracked cap beside the badge. Put mine down, too. Lydia looked at Marcus. You came here to review sealed files at 10. I did. Now? He stood, the red lines at his wrists lighter but not gone. Now we begin with the ones no one wanted to reopen. Beyond the glass wall, Brandt emptied his locker into a cardboard box, every drop carrying down the hall. By 6:05 p.m., the council chamber had filled past the last row. Rain clung to coats and darkened the carpet near the doors. Fluorescent panels hummed above the flag stands. The lectern microphone blinked red. Grace sat in the second row with her phone held in both hands, not hidden beneath cotton. Ruth Bell sat with her diner keys in her lap. Harold Vance leaned on a cane, his cracked cap on one knee. Lydia Garner stood near Mara Collins, both carrying folders. Councilman Samuel Ortiz tapped his pen. This emergency session is called to order. Someone whispered Brandt's name and stopped. We are here to address detention procedures after the incident at Maple Lantern, Ortiz said. Marcus stepped to the lectern. My name is Marcus Ellison. I am not here to ask you to feel sorry for me. The room settled. I was released. My property was returned. The officer involved has been dismissed. Those are consequences. They are not repair. What repair do you recommend? Ortiz asked. Marcus unfolded one page. Before any field removal, an officer must state the reason in plain language and allow 1 minute for identification unless there is immediate danger. 1 minute? A man said. Often, that is enough time for pride to cool and facts to enter. Grace's thumbs pressed the edges of her phone. Lydia moved beside him. Property will be logged before transport. Body cameras will be checked at shift start and audited. Manual standby during contact will trigger review. Mara added, complaints involving unlogged property, missing footage, or unclear detention basis from 5 years will go to an outside panel. In the last row, Pike sat in plain clothes, eyes on the floor. Ruth rose slowly. May I speak? She came to the side microphone. Her keys clicked in her hand. I own the Maple Lantern. I thought staying quiet kept my place safe. It only made my counter smaller for some people. We'll post customer rights by the register. We'll train staff when to document and when to call for help. Not against police. Against silence. Harold lifted his cracked cap. Put that last part on the sign. A few people gave soft laughter, then let it go. Miss Miller, Ortiz said, you asked to speak. Grace stood, and her knee hit the chair. The sound snapped through the chamber. She walked to the microphone with the phone held at chest height. I didn't record because I was brave, she said. I recorded because I was late. Marcus looked down. I heard him ask for a receipt. I heard him ask for a supervisor. I heard him say, please. For too long, I asked myself if I was allowed to notice. The red light reflected on her screen. So make the rules clear enough that the next waitress doesn't have to choose between her job and the truth. The chamber stayed silent in a way that finally listened. Ortiz read the motion. 1 minute verification. Property log before transport. Camera audit. Outside complaint review. Witness protection. Rights notices. Quarterly public reports. All in favor? Hands rose across the dais, one after another. Marcus did not smile. He saw Grace holding the phone openly, both hands steady now. Outside the windows, the rain had stopped, but water kept sliding down the glass in narrow lines. 3 months later, the bell above the Maple Lantern gave one clear ring. Marcus stepped inside at 8:10 a.m. with Naomi beside him. Winter light lay pale across the counter. The same stool near the pie case was empty. The tile had been replaced, but Marcus still looked once at the place where coffee had spread toward his folder. Grace came from behind the counter wearing a black sweater under her apron, law books stacked beside the register. "Morning, Judge." "Marcus is fine before breakfast." Naomi smiled. "He says that until someone believes him." Grace lifted the pot. "2 coffees?" "1 black," Marcus said. "1 with cream." Ruth Bell came out of the kitchen carrying peach pie. Her keys rested on a hook beside a framed notice. "Every customer may ask why, call help, and keep property documented." "I wanted to bring this myself," Ruth said. Marcus watched her hands. They did not shake, but she held the plates too long. "I owe you words without excuses. I watched you get taken from my counter. I chose my business first." Marcus turned his cup handle toward her. "You changed the counter." "Not enough. Enough to start." Across the room, Harold Vance sat in booth 3 with a new cap. The cracked one was mounted behind the register beneath the notice. He raised 2 fingers. Marcus returned the gesture. At noon, the city posted its first public report. Lydia Garner stood before a plain podium, no uniformed line behind her. Brandt's dismissal had survived appeal. Pike had been reassigned to records during outside review and would not supervise patrol until retraining was complete. 9 old complaints had been reopened, 3 sent outside the department. "This report does not protect our image," Lydia said. "It protects the record." Mara Collins stood beside families who had never been invited into such rooms. Grace was there too, phone visible in her coat pocket. Not a weapon, not a secret. That evening, back at the diner, Naomi unfolded the old photograph of Elaine. The paper was softer now, the corner rounded from years of being saved and almost crushed. She placed it between the 2 coffee cups. "You never told me why you didn't say judge," she said. Marcus watched steam lift past Elaine's smiling face. "I wanted to know what the room would do with only my name. And it hurt." "Yes." "You could have protected yourself." "I have spent years asking people to trust a process. That morning, I needed to see where it broke." Naomi touched the edge of the photograph. "Mom would have hated that answer. She would have brought pie to the hearing and corrected my wording." Naomi laughed once, then wiped under one eye with her thumb. Grace came over with the check and a folded registration form for evening pre-law classes. "I got in," Ruth called from the register. "She studies during slow hours and corrects my spelling on the rights notice." Harold said, "Somebody has to." Marcus signed the bottom of Grace's form as a reference, not with a title, just his name. "Read every line before you argue it." "I learned that here," she said. When they left, the rain had stopped. In the window behind him, the framed notice reflected over the counter, the mounted cap, and the stool where no one had looked away. He took Elaine's photograph from his pocket and placed it back unbent. The bell settled behind him. If this story stayed with you, share in the comments whether you have ever seen someone treated unfairly while everyone else stayed quiet. Your words may remind someone that speaking up does not always require a loud voice, only a steady one. Share this story with a person who believes dignity should never depend on status, clothing, race, job title, or who happens to be watching. Subscribe for more emotional stories about justice, quiet strength, second chances, and the kind of change that begins when one ordinary witness refuses to look away. And if you know someone who still carries a moment like Marcus did, send this to them today.